This is Dane Dunham, co-moderator of the Audio Description Discussion Facebook group, and you are listening to the Audio Description Narrators of America Know Your Narrator series, Beyond Your Narrator episode.
Today, we're very honored to have Dr. Joel Snyder joining us another time here, as well as Susan Glass, to talk about the BADIES. Susan, I'd love to ask what you love about audio description.
What I love about audio description is discovering what's inside all those hidden cupboards. And that's my metaphor for, when I was a little girl, I would watch I Love Lucy. And if you know anything about I Love Lucy, there's great dialogue. And you've got, her husband, Ricky, saying, "You got a lot of splaining to do, Lucy." And there's all this laughter and you're going, what's going on there? And only later do I learn that she's doing crazy things like trying to hide eggs in her shirt, and he dances her and embraces her and all the eggs break. There's all this undercurrents, and this makes me seem very silly to say that I watched Lucy, but come on, it was fun.
Everybody did.
Everybody did, and it's just delightful. And what I love about audio description is that I often think, especially if I'm enjoying a program or a film that has a lot of dialogue, I think, oh, I've got a handle on this. I get everything that's going on here. And then I hear an audio described version of the same media, and I say, he did that? Oh, her eyes, oh my gosh, there was someone outside that one. Oh wait, she was holding that. I mean, it's just wonderful to find out what's in the cupboard. And it adds a form of literature and dimension to a program that is not there. A good audio describer is good with language and can supply just that literature element to put the images in where I know exactly where I am. So that is what I enjoy about audio description.
Wonderful. It's so great to hear about those hidden keys that are giving you access to those cupboards.
I love that
Wonderful
cupboard metaphor. That's great,
Right.
Susan.
Joel, let's pivot to you. And because we've already interviewed you, I'd love to speak specifically about the BADIES and how audio description in its form pre-BADIE to where we are now. Can you talk a little bit about how the BADIES Awards grew?
Sure. Well, audio description, as you know, has been around formally for just about 40 years now. And as it's become more popular and more prevalent in media, museums, began in performing arts, people began to think about different kinds of applications for audio description. Nowadays, folks know that it's primarily for audiences of folks who are blind or have low vision, but it has great applications for people on the autism spectrum, people with developmental disabilities, learning disabilities and such. And not that long ago, I wrote a paper on literacy and audio description, exploring how audio description, say of a children's show or a picture book, for instance, obviously makes the book accessible to kids who are blind. But I think it actually builds literacy for anybody listening, a sighted kid, because they hear synonyms, they hear different uses of language, they hear an increased vocabulary, a level of literacy that they may not have been exposed to, techniques like, onomatopoeia and alliteration, etc. And lots of studies have been made on how captioning helps build literacy for kids. A lot of this came from when I produced description for Sesame Street for 6 years, and it got me really thinking about it. So thinking about kids and blindness, and golly, it was about 10, 11 years ago when I first heard about a program similar to what we do with the BADIES, where blind kids would write reviews of described videos. And I thought, that's a cool idea, and I'm not above stealing it and trying to implement it in the US. And we did about 10, 11 years ago, and we did it under the name Described, Film
A young
Critics.
described
Yes,
film critics.
that's it. Young Described Film Critic Contest, which is a mouthful. And so 5, 6 years ago, we reinvented it as the BADIES, which is an acronym, BADIE. There, I'm doing it again. BADIE, an acronym, BADIE, Benefits of Audio Description in Education. And it has really taken off under Susan's leadership. She chairs the subcommittee that works on this program. And this whole idea of just having kids who are blind think about description, write about description, actually use language to tell us about why the description helped them experience a video, and we give them prizes. And by the way, we do this all in conjunction with the Described and Captioned Media program run by our great friend Jason Stark, funded by the Department of Education, I should say. And that's a great program of making sure all educational media is described and captioned. DCMP.org is their website. So I wanted to make sure that was in there. So that's kind of the genesis of the BADIE program, and we've had great success with it.
Susan, how did you get your involvement to now being the leadership position?
I think that happened in 2013. Dan Spoon, who was then ACB president, approached me about it. And I think Joel may have as well. I met Joel in 2010 or 2011 when he gave a seminar on audio description for those of us who are blind. And I have been a devoted groupie ever since. And so I really wanted to do this. And I know part of my involvement is I was retiring from my full-time job as an English professor, but I've always loved working with kids. And I just love this idea of a contest where kids were writers. And Joel had come up with this really neat what's in a film review kind of piece that we still have available on the DCMP website at the Listening is Learning initiative, where you go to learn about all this. And he basically walks kids through how to be film critics, how you don't just summarize, and how you actually describe. You talk about the description and separate it from the film, and don't just be a plot summarizer and dish the dirt, but support what you say and get it done on time. It was this whole wonderful thing, and I was very excited to be a part of it. At that time, Joel and Jason Stark and Dan Spoon were spearheading it. We got together several other ACB members on the committee. And I remember the first committee meeting because I felt totally over my head. But over the last 6 years or so, we've built a neat program where we advertise the contest in many venues, at schools for the blind, and through various newsletters and on radio broadcasts. And we're proud to say that as of last year, I believe we had entries from 7 states, Joel, or was it 9?
I think it was 9, 40 some entries in 9 states. Yeah.
In 9 states. However, we got to get the rest of those states in there. So every year we
right.
say, okay, what are we going to do to get more and more people involved? And this year we're really trying to think about, all right, children are at home, they're being schooled at home. That should work to our benefit. We should be able to get more students involved in the contest. So, I really hope we can do that. But I have loved it. My fellow committee members are just awesome American Council of the Blind people. And Joel and Jason are unfailing in their leadership, and we're a pretty well-oiled team. So it's great fun. And it's most fun when we see the kids. And we can talk about that in a little bit, like some stories I can tell you about some of the winners. It's really exciting to see how they handle, oh my gosh, I won. What does this mean? You can see the change in them. So we can talk about that in a bit.
Joel, there's been a lot of good gossip that Susan has shared about you. What I'd like to do is let's turn the tables and say, what's your experience been like working with Susan?
Oh my goodness. Oh boy.
She's forgetful. She drives me crazy.
No, my
said
goodness.
Good gossip.
Listen, it's funny because we met, I guess, 2010, 2009, 2010, yes. Something like that. And she's just delightful because she's an English professor, and words are what I work with these days primarily. And having grown up in theater and all of that, we are of like mind, certainly. And so I just have been a big fan of Susan Glasses from the very beginning. And she happens to be the sister to another good friend of mine, Jolynn Bailey Page, who worked in DC. She lives in California now, but she worked in DC for many years as an audio describer. So the two girls, the two sisters, I feel like I should be part of the family or something. I hope I am. I don't know.
You certainly are. In fact, Joel, I don't know if you remember this, but back in 2009, no, it was 2010, I was working on an English textbook, and I wanted to include an audio description essay assignment. And I wrote to you, I asked you if I could pay you to use part of your text, and you said, just take it. I couldn't believe that. And it is credited in the book, but I remember that was so nice because, and those were fun essays, I must tell you. I still have them. College kids really have a good time with that kind of process. It was neat.
That's great.
It
Yeah.
sounds like a
Yeah.
great time to pivot from working together to working with kids, as you had mentioned, Susan. Can you continue
Yeah.
to talk more about that process for the kids, maybe even from before they submit to after they win, or whatever part that you'd like to talk about?
Well, sure. So what happens when they submit is that most of our students are enrolled in a class with other students, and some teachers make it a class assignment, some do not, but if it's a school for the blind, they may do that. And the students watch a video, and since we've partnered with DCMP, they often watch some of the educational videos that are available on the DCMP website. So there's a whole bunch from the Magic School Bus series where you can go inside a molecule, or you can go inside a forest, or different, or you can go inside a snowflake and learn how it does what it does. And they watch those videos, and they've gone to the website and often with their teacher or parent, seen the criteria. Okay, I need a couple sentences about this film, but then I need to talk about the description. How did it help me? How did it make what I learned better? And they might say everything from, I really love the descriptions, and I like that the describer didn't talk over the actual characters, which of course is kind of basic stuff, but if you're new to it, it's good to say that, and it's important. And then they might say, I kind of wish that describer's voice wasn't quite so much like the main character's voice because I had trouble telling that apart. Okay, well, that's a nice little critical piece for a review. But anyway, they generally have a teacher or parent helping them through that process, ideally helping them and not shaping it, through the teacher, letting the student do the writing. And then they enter the contest, and of course, if they are a grand prize winner, they receive an iPad mini, and their teacher receives a prize. And if they're a first place winner, their teacher receives a gift certificate. I think we have varying gift certificate amounts.
Oh yeah. Each first place, there are 4 categories, but each first place student winner in each of those categories gets a $100 iTunes gift card, and the teacher gets a $100 Amazon gift card. And yes, that grand prize winner gets that iPad mini, which is much sought after.
Pretty exciting. Yeah. It's when all the essays have come in, the 7 of us on the Beatty committee that divide up the essays, and we come up with the first place, second and third place winners in each of our categories: sophomore, varsity, junior varsity, and specialized category, which is a non-graded category. And then from those essays, we select our grand prize winner. And 2 of the happiest moments for me that I can remember, in 2017, our winner was Abigail Moreno, and she was from California, and she wrote a beautiful essay about a film on the American Council of the Blind website. And the film was called Faith. And it's the one that we are sharing with you, the audio, and we can also share the essay itself. But it was about a blind girl who in Australia who entered a songwriting contest and won, and about the confidence that she gained. And Miss Abigail Moreno wrote about that and did a very nice job evaluating the description and talking about how it actually had changed her mind to some degree about the value of description in a positive sense. So she won that year. She read the essay aloud to the entire American Council of the Blind Assembly. This beautiful 17-year-old girl.
She was about 15, I think.
Was she?
Believe it or not, because she was in our junior category.
Oh
and
my gosh.
She's got to be 18, 19 now, of course.
Yeah, and do you remember how poised she was?
Oh,
I mean,
amazing.
But what I remember is she walked out in this beautiful dress, but it was a sleeveless dress. And if you've ever been to conventions, they are deep freezes. They are so, I don't know how any of us survived. And the first thing she said after she said hello ACB was, is anybody else freezing? And then she started reading her essay aloud. It was just, but what a charming young woman. And she got to go around to the various exhibits at the convention, meet different affiliates, meet different students, attend different sessions, and really experience the whole convention. And I think that's a really delightful time of life to do that. The other story, and then I'll hush, in 2018, I think the young man's name was Townsend Stemple.
That's right.
And he won for writing an essay about 2 of the DCMP described films, 2 short films. And he came with his mom to the ACB legislative seminar in Washington, D.C., and it's also the mid-year session where members of the organization gather. He was from West Virginia School for the Blind, and he came and he read our essay to us. And he was so cute. He was much younger, of course, than Abby. I think maybe 10, or what do you think, Joel?
Yeah, 10 or
But
11.
you could tell he was, as he was there, it was like, I'm here. Oh my gosh, I'm here. I'm doing, you could see him kind of blooming there, going from, oh, this is strange, all these grown-ups, to, wow, I'm actually here doing this. And then people asked him questions. They asked him if they liked his teacher who had him submit. It was just adorable. But what I also remember was that his mother was talking to various ACB members, and you could almost feel the lights go on, like she was saying, oh, these are the adult opportunities that await my son. And I think that's another value to this contest, is if we can get parents to come with their kids, they have an opportunity then to see what blindness is about and how it's not a limiting thing. It's a broadening opportunity. So those are my kid memories. I think Joel should take it from there, but that's,
and indeed at the convention, to be speaking in front of, golly, upwards of 2,000 folks, most of whom are totally blind. And these are, adults, accomplished adults in all manner of endeavor. I think that's a great point, Susan, that you make. These young kids who are blind or have low vision, seeing, in a way, models really for what they can become. It's great.
Can you name a challenge that you had when this was first coming out that you are really proud, and how you overcame it?
The first thing that comes to my mind, really, and we've had a bit of success with this, but it's slow in coming. Audio description lacks, for want of a better expression, visibility. Hello, I'm not trying to be silly, but it's true. The general public, they know about captions because they see captions on television to a far greater degree than description is available on television. But they see the captions in the gym or in a bar, or whatever, that kind of thing. Description is invisible. It's hidden. It's only there if you ask for it, really. Turn it on your television, that kind of thing. And the population of people who are blind, it's about half of the population of people out there who are deaf or hard of hearing. So it's a smaller number. It's just tough sometimes to get the word out, even to consumers, potential consumers of description, that it exists, that it's there for you, that it changes people's lives. So I know when we began this as the Young Described Film Critic Contest, we were getting in like maybe a dozen entries, something like that. It was really tough, and that's grown now, and in no small part due to the organization that Dan Spoon and Susan have brought to this in getting the subcommittee together and getting the word out. But that's been the more difficult thing, it seems, for me, that I think of, is just getting the word out. And that's why I'm so pleased to be doing this with Roy Samuelson on your podcast, because it's just another way to get the word out and hopefully inspire applications from anywhere around the country, even around the world.
I would echo that completely and say that our partner, Jason Stark and DCMP, have done so much to increase our visibility. And we talk them up wherever we can go too. And because of the wonderful educational videos they have, and they've made place available to us on their website. They're there every year. They publicize us in their newsletter. You just couldn't ask for a better partner. And indeed, they really opened my mind to the fact that description can help you if you're hearing impaired, learning disabled, even English as second language learners. It can be enormously useful and helpful. And I think that partnership has done a great deal for us too. We still face this challenge though every year. Okay, who do we tap this time? How many times do we tap them? Because you put out audio interviews, you put out announcements again and again, several places. Human beings, but being what they are, they say, oh, that looks like fun. Then it gets forgot. Oh my gosh, that looks fun. Oh gosh, I'm near the deadline, so it's always a little bit of a nail puller for me. Like, is anyone going to come? Are we going to get this through each year? And we're just always looking for more ways. We'd still like to have representatives either on our committee or helping us through more regions of the United States, I think would be helpful. Of course, we don't want an enormous committee, but it just, the more reaching out we can do to every state, I think the better.
Yeah, Susan's right. Like anything, really, people feel the pressure when it gets closer to the deadline and they get in gear, And the deadline for this contest coming up is January 22nd, 2021. So, yeah, typically we get the bulk of the entries in that last 2 or 3 weeks, but we're hoping to go well beyond the 9 states represented from last year. And indeed, we even had an inquiry from a woman in Australia who heard about the program, and they want to start. They want to start with Vision Australia. They want to start an Australian version of the. Although we would accept entries from anywhere around the world, but they thought they might develop an Australian/New Zealand version of the Beatty contest. So we're working with them, helping them along a little bit.
That'd be a great partnership back and
Yeah.
forth. It really
Yeah.
exciting. And this year we had an inquiry from a student in Canada. And
Yep, that's right.
I really hope that that student follows through, because that sounds so exciting. So, just bit by bit is what we need to
Yeah.
do. I think.
I should mention that there are 4 categories. So it's open to kids who are ages 7 to 21, and we divide them up in age groups just because we think it just makes it a little easier to compare the essays. The sophomore category is ages 7 to 10, the junior category ages 11 to 15, and then seniors ages 16 to 21. And like Susan mentioned, we have a 4th category called alternate assessment, and that refers to students whose participation in their general statewide assessment program, testing in math, science, language arts, is not appropriate for whatever reasons, even with accommodations. So it's another way for kids who are in that alternate assessment area or category, if you will, to have the opportunity to. Sometimes the kids will record the essay because they don't write it out necessarily, and they can write it out. They can braille it and send it to us. They can do it electronically, however you wish. But yeah, sometimes in that alternate assessment category, we get entries that are recorded essays, and oftentimes with the assistance of the teacher there, which is
Which
fine.
I think is wonderful, because
Sure.
in the process of doing that, that child is doing something. And there's going to be that light that goes on that says, oh, I'm important. I'm doing something.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you win even yet. It's that you're doing it. And Joel, I really appreciate that from the outset. When we were the Young Film Critics Award, you've always kept this a wide open gate for accessibility, making
Oh, yeah.
any way the student can enter possible. I think that's crucial.
Yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
irony lost. This is accessibility to accessibility, and it just starts getting
Yeah.
meta, like
Yeah,
go
exactly.
into Inception here.
That's right.
It's so great to hear about this awareness and how you're reaching out. I'd like to see if we could address this a little more in detail. One of the benefits of this, just the work that you're doing for these kind of turning kids into critics, is that it's giving feedback to these projects, whether they're educational
Yeah.
or otherwise. And it sounds like another side of benefit is that it's giving some accountability to writers of audio description. Have you noticed any similarity or connection there?
Yeah, that's interesting, actually. Yeah, the writers of audio description could use more feedback from consumers. And we have adult discussion groups online where we get some of that, but getting that from the kids too, because they're able to make distinctions between, like Susan mentioned, well, the voice overlapped, or maybe the vocal quality could have been a little different, or I didn't understand some of the words or whatever. That kind of feedback is great for the writers.
It is. And sometimes the writers, one of the things we're working on this year is helping them understand a little more about what the describer has to do, because a child who's 7 or 8 he might say, well, how come he only described the man in the suit and not the dog on the sidewalk? Well, it's because a describer has 2 seconds to get something in, and you have to get the most crucial details. So one of the things we hope to do for the future, and it's going to take time, is and this is always hard because classroom teachers are busy, but spend some time with the kids saying, what does a describer do? What are the kinds of problems or challenges he has to face here? Think of that when you're writing your description too. And so it's gonna, each year, I hope it's gonna get a little bit more teeth into the assignment, is what I'm hoping we can do.
That's great, Susan. The idea that the kids are learning about this activity, a profession
Mhm,
now, a burgeoning profession, because
mhm.
there's more and more description on television. That means more writers, more voice talents, and such. And people who are blind, I know some of the best audio editors in audio description are people who are totally blind. Some of the best voice talents, other than Roy Samuelson, are are people
Yeah.
who are people who are totally blind. And actually, the a person who's blind who knows about description, is experienced with description, maybe taken some training in description, they can be excellent consultants. There's absolutely no reason why a person who's blind can't be proficient in language like Susan is, and listen to a draft description and say, well, you what if you used fewer words here, and maybe something a little more vivid there, and something that really conjures the image in the mind's eye. That kind of consultation from someone with the perspective of a consumer, someone who is blind, is really quite valuable. More writers need to take advantage of that.
What you just said reminded me of two things, and one of them was for a while when we were having live conventions, we had a mentorship program going. When you had the Audio Description Institute going on at the
Oh,
same
yes.
time, we would pair blind attendees of the American Council of the Blind with attendees of Joel's conferences, and they would pal around together during convention week. They'd go out for coffee, or they'd go hang out at the exhibits, or they'd take a walk, or they'd do whatever. And because sometimes a describer has never been with a blind person. And
That's right.
so
That's right.
it was a good way to build that understanding back and forth. And the other thing you made me think of, and please feel free to elaborate on mentorship if you wish, Joel, but I've been to a number of career days for school children. Usually I go in the capacity of bringing my guide dog along or something like that. But wouldn't it be cool if, when you have a school career day and they've got the fireman there and the forest ranger there and the policewoman there, if they had an audio describer there, you could be
Yeah,
a describer. I think that's a good ambassador role we can start,
sure.
uh, promoting in public schools.
Not only public schools, and Roy, I bet you could be a big assist with this too. But film schools.
Oh, good.
I don't think folks in film schools learn anything about post production, or at least not enough about post production activity. Developing subtitles, developing dubs, developing audio description, captions. That's a whole area that I think filmmakers need to know more about right from the get-go. And they might even decide to involve or incorporate description from the very beginning, which means then an add-on descriptive track isn't even necessary because it's already accessible just in the way they've created the film. So there are all kinds of things like that bubbling, and we need more of it.
One of the cool things that is definitely happening, and Susan, we briefly addressed this before Joel joined us, that this podcast series that you're on right now is deliberately creating audio description snobs in the best way possible. And I quote my friend Melody in her quote of that, because there is a concern that this work that was created by blind people for blind people
Yeah.
is not including blind people in the actual creation of it. So in a real
Yeah.
sense, these
Not
BADIES
enough.
Awards,
Yeah.
exactly. And so in a
Yeah.
real sense, it's building that kind of connection of building professionals, whether, as you mentioned, Joel, whether it's the editor, the engineer, the voice talent, even the writer, the editing of the sound, the editing of the script, the quality control, that all of these aspects are absolutely necessary. And in the
Yeah.
work that I've been
Yeah.
involved in, any audio description is better when a blind person is involved in as many steps as possible. And
Sure.
so, if this is going to continue, I can't help but think that these kinds of sparks that are happening with the BADIES, even being aware of it or submitting, and of course winning, that this kind of gets, like you had said, that spark that kind of creates that, I want to explore this more, I want to develop it more. And to your point, as more people become more educated about what audio description is, it can only help to elevate the quality that our blind audiences deserve. And it needs to be in
Yeah.
parity with sighted audiences. I know that you're talking about an award for kids, but the implications of what's happening, what you're building, the foundation that you both have very meticulously and carefully crafted for these kids, it couldn't be more exciting.
No, I think that's right. And something else, I know that, Roy, Marilee Talkington, who's an actress, just a marvelous actress in films and television broadcasts, and she's legally blind. And I've had this discussion with her, the idea that to the extent that kids who are blind, low vision, grow up with more meaningful exposure to theater, to film, uh, they can become more involved and more interested in it and actually pursue careers in
Mhm.
the film industry, in theater, because they were exposed to it meaningfully via audio description as young people. And I think that's there. And we need more of it again.
Susan, before we go over again how to submit for these awards, is there anything else that you'd like to share?
I'm just so proud of the kids every year. I'm so proud of the kids and just so eager to, and I get very involved in each year in analyzing, okay, it's great we heard from this group. Why didn't we hear from these states and these states? And
Uh-huh.
there's a part of me that's going to be restless until we get more from everybody. Because I would like this contest to be a household name the way American Foundation for the Blind is a household name. I just like to, oh, Beatty, I know that. I want, that's really kind of what we're after. And it's going to take a while. But what really pleases me, and the last few years we've kind of divvied up the responsibilities, but one year I actually got to call up the winning kids.
Mhm.
It's really fun to talk to them or talk to their teachers and
Mhm.
and see the smile. And sometimes the whole class gets to hear about it. And I don't know, it's just when there's a lot of kind of work that we do in private as we're publicizing and kind of climbing up that hill. But when the winners actually are announced and you get to feel what it's like for them, that's when it really becomes exciting, I think.
Joel, what about you? Is there anything else you'd like to share? And I have to jump in here, Joel. Of
Yeah.
all the interviews that I've heard you be a part of, that you've been interviewed by in all our interactions, I have never heard such delight coming from you. And you're a delightful person. This has been so many occasions where you've just, I could hear I can feel the passion and the excitement. Do you have anything else you'd like to share about the Beatties?
I want to mention, of course, the web address and how people apply and all that good stuff. We'll get to that. But the when audio description was first being developed formally, there was some real resistance, even among folks who are blind. The idea of, well, I guess maybe this is okay for entertainment. Maybe it's okay for
Huh.
kids or something, but it's not a necessary thing. It doesn't really do anything for adults. Really, we blind people need to just get along as they are, and with as little assistance from the others in the world or something. And I never really understood that idea, but we've grown so far from
Oh
that
yeah.
nowadays. And the idea that audio description really helps people become a part of culture and be aware of what's going on in theater, in museums, on film, in television, etc. And I think to the extent that folks are more engaged with society and their culture, they become more engaging individuals. And I think that even means sometimes more employable. The data shows that 70% of people who are blind are unemployed. 70%. So anyway, all of that is what excites me. And starting with folks who are young, I think is the best way to do it too. So
Great. And either of you, this is a great transition to how do these soon to be professional audio description critics submit for the Beatties?
as Susan mentioned, the Described and Captioned Media Program has so generously given us part of their website, and they've incorporated the Beatty program in something they called Listening is Learning. And the website address for the application material is dcmp.org/learn/657 hyphen LIL hyphen Baddie or Beatty. There, I did it again. BADIE. So, but you can just go to dcmp.org and put BADIE in their search bar, and you'll get there. And the deadline is January 22nd, 2021. So Don't wait till the last minute, but but we just want to see entries from y'all and be able to respond. And we will respond quickly. I think we will have them all put together, results put together by within a month, by February 19th, and
That's
get that
correct.
announced. And we're just talking about a maybe 300 words maximum essay, keeping it fairly short and to the point. And indeed, part of that website, you've got top tips for writing the ultimate film review. So that'll be a good guide to writing an essay. And, using language, writing is an important skill, obviously, for anybody. And so we've got some tips there that will help. So the URL for applying to the Beatty contest is dcmp.org/learn/657 hyphen LIL hyphen Beatty, BADIE. But you can simply do dcmp.org and put Beatty, BADIE, in the search bar, and you'll come up with it.
Great. And thanks again for joining us, Joel and Susan. It's been a real pleasure and an honor to hear all about the behind the scenes of this awards, and can't wait to hear the results once it comes early
Oh,
2021.
yes. Oh, yes.
Yes. Thank you very much, Roy. It was a pleasure to be here.
Thanks, Roy, as always.